Hello, and welcome to another episode of Break the Cycle with me, your host, Joshua Smith. I boomered it up.
Yeah, and you know, it's one of those solutions where we figured out a solution, but we have no idea why it works.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but hey, you know, we'll survive. We'll make it, I promise. I hope everyone's having a wonderful, what is it, Monday? It's fucking
Yeah,
Monday,
it's Monday.
Yeah, I just did my 3 days in a row at work, so I know it's Monday. That's how it works. I'm feeling a little better from the motorcycle accident. I don't feel like I'm going to die so much anymore. Now it's just like, you know, if I stand up for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I still got a motorcycle accident a week ago, didn't I? Shit hurts. We're having a good show tonight. I'm very excited to be there with you guys. Before we get into anything too much further, let's start off with sponsors. First, we have TopLobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get this great custom Break the Cycle logo, camo, hoodie. What? I know. I can hear it. Camo. Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan Kurtz.
I didn't know if that was intentional or not.
By this custom camo Break the Cycle logo hoodie that I'm wearing tonight by using BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. Or you can join the Patreon, subscribe star, or become a member of the YouTube channel under all of my videos by hitting the join link, where you can get into a private Discord server and get all of Top Lobster's new gear up to 2 weeks before it goes to the general public at a 10 or 30% discount. Really great stuff. If you're supporting us like $5 to $10 a month and you're buying Top Lobster's new gear, you're really just supporting us both and getting a discount still. That's really how that works. Good stuff. I promise you, you will not be disappointed if you go check out toplobster.com. It's good, really good stuff. Best stuff in the movement. And of course, executive producers of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at much cheaper and much more efficiently. They help organizations solve unsolvable problems in the technology and HR arenas. They serve clients all over, but currently in New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, and their client list is growing, including some people from the show that have been very happy with them. Their team leads by example. Anthem consultants have led their own organizations through demanding periods of change. Now they help clients succeed in the face of technology and personnel challenges. Really great stuff, man. I mean, honest to God, if you are not familiar with Amy Lepore, she's been on the show before. You can search up twice, actually. She's been on the show. You can go and check her out, and I promise you, you're gonna be like, wow, this lady definitely could do some stuff for my business. Go check her out if you can. Of course, executive producers of the show, Colwell Creative Content. They specialize in things like SEO to help your site rank well on Google or other search engines. Website design, optimized website content writing, optimized blog posts, copywriting, social media content management, newsletter writing and design, ghostwriting and editing services, resume and cover letter writing, and they work with all kinds of clients, including real estate, addiction treatment, mental health, healthcare, banking and payment processing, but not the Federal Reserve or the CIA podcast. They've worked with just about every industry, including libertarian political candidates and influencers such as my friend and mentor in politics, Mr. Larry Sharp. So if they're good enough for Larry Sharp, I promise you they're good enough for you. They've been in business since 2012, and they've worked with hundreds of clients. Check out Colwell Creative Content today. Let them help you get in front of your target audience. Guys, we've got a great show for you tonight. Before we move on, let's check in with our co-hosts. Of course, we have Mr. Ryan Kurtz. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing pretty good. Happy to be in the studio, and I get some yup cocks in the chat.
Will you guys just, for God's sakes, give this guy some yup cocks in the chat? All he wants.
We've had one
cocks.
Ever.
All he wants is some cocks, dude. That's all the guy wants.
I just want cock. Is that so much to ask?
He's here. And guys, we're going to be having a guest host in the studio from time to time as well. If you've watched the show not too long ago, we had a great gentleman on who's hilarious. Very happy to have him back with us. Of course, he is Mr. AJ Fisher from the Redacted Caucus. Sir, how are you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. And I saved you some ASMR for our listeners. There you go. Cracking another cold one.
He's wearing
Great to be here.
He's wearing the "Don't Let Me Do Shots or Coke" shirt tonight. But we may let him. I don't know. We may. We just may.
Okay.
We'll do shots of Coke.
And guys, I know there's a little echo. I've been working on a noise suppressor on here. I haven't got the settings dialed in yet. If we get really loud, there is a bit of an echo. I apologize. Guys, I'm very excited for our guest tonight. He's one of my favorite people in the entire movement. I would go to the ends of the earth for this guy. I think his messaging is on par. I think the fact that he has satired the entire process in a way that's not as communist as Mr. Vermin Supreme. He's running for U.S. Senate now in New Hampshire, which makes me very happy. It makes me wish that I lived in the free state of New Hampshire to vote for him. He is Mr. Jeremy Kaufman.
Just mail in.
How are you doing tonight?
Woo! Yeah, coming to you from the Free State. Doing great, man. I'm feeling very good about how everything is going up here.
Good, man. I've been following you on Twitter. God, it's got to be a couple years now. And I remember watching, kind of watching you, and I'm a shameless self promoter. I want to grow the show and make it big, and I would just randomly send things to Jeremy Kaufman on Twitter in DM, and we had never talked before, and he just randomly shared my shit. He had a lot of followers back then. It was when I was trying to grow my Twitter and stuff, and he just shared it. Just nice guy. Didn't even have to have a conversation with me or anything. And then I found out that he was the CEO of Library. Is that what it is, Jeremy? I always fuck that up.
Yeah, I am. I'm the CEO of Library, which owns Odyssey, which you are also on.
Yes,
by the way,
I am also on Odyssey. When we actually, in fact, we figured out that the reason why we were dropping all those frames is I ran a test, and it's my upstream. So the fact that we know what it is now and can actually work on fixing the upstream somehow, we will eventually, within the next couple of weeks, hopefully be live streaming to Odyssey as well.
Let's go.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to be able to live stream to Odyssey. I love Odyssey. I think it's a better platform than YouTube, and eventually, I'll be probably exclusively there when they kick us off of YouTube. I'm sure it's coming eventually. Man, but before we get too far into this, dude, hey, Jeremy, I mean, how's the campaign going? You're running for U.S. Senate. You're obviously very serious candidate, very serious.
I am serious. It's true. I say that a lot, and it's true that I am.
How's it going, dude? I mean,
it's repeating. You're like, I'm serious, and then people don't believe you. I don't understand. I just told you what I am. I don't understand why you're not.
What could you have ever done that would convince people that you're not serious? I see a straight-laced guy, never would make a mockery of anyone else.
It's yeah. I mean, I have great credentials. I have great academic credentials. I have great business credentials. I've got a great personal life. They refuse to take you as being serious, even when you say that you are serious. It's interesting the lengths that they will go to deny.
It's funny to me.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Josh. By the way, sorry. I feel like I actually just started.
No, it's great. I'm happy. Happy to let you talk all night, buddy. You know that. So I think that your political. I think anybody who watches this show is probably going to know your political ads. If you have not seen Jeremy's political ads made by Dan Smots from The System Is Down, who's a big, very good friend of mine, one of my probably best friends in the world. Who we don't really talk, but I consider him one of my best friends.
We all have friends.
Yeah,
like
we all
that.
have friends like that. And so he's made these wonderful videos for you about climate change and how serious it is, and the gay agenda for Raytheon, and
we need to make wars gay.
Being a lizard person, and all this great stuff.
All very important issues.
Yeah, and abortion, and how he made two different. You don't want to offend anybody. You need everybody's support. So why not make two videos on abortion, one on each side of the debate, and let the chips fall where they may. But it was to me, you do say you're serious at the end. I think a lot of people don't believe you. But you're definitely, obviously, literally more serious than the terrible politicians that do run our country currently. But how's the campaign going, Jeremy? I mean, what have you guys accomplished?
Yeah, so it's going well overall. We are definitely we've been struggling to get into the debates, which was something that I was really hoping we would be able to do. It's not a given that we're not going to be in them. I've got an interview with NPR on Thursday morning, which I think should be a very good time. And we've also gotten real attention for the Libertarian Party with the advertisements and other things that we've been doing. But it definitely has been frustrating. I'm new to doing this, and I feel like we're getting a kind of good return on investment, but the difficulty with which it is to get acknowledged is very real. And if you look at even Chase Oliver, who had the debate in Georgia, where people will literally crop the picture so that he's not in it.
Right. They literally
cropped
they cropped the picture and left the empty lectern in the picture.
Yeah,
because
they
Herschel
were
Walker
like-
didn't show up, and they're like, "Oh, this
he
Warnock,
debated against no one.
Warnock shows up to debate against no one." It's like, yo, dude, the Libertarian was there. Like, look, I'm not a big fan of Chase myself personally because of personal issues, and because I'm not a big fan of like drag shows for children and stuff like that he supports. And so I'm not a huge fan of Chase. I've liked Chase as a person. I've sat down and had dinner with Chase. I think he's a nice guy. But I think he's taken this whole like, the LNC's all these like hateful white nationalists way too far now. I think it's become a problem.
Wait, I stopped hearing you. What happened?
Uh-oh. That's not what. Hold on one second, Jeremy. We're having some technical issues. That says.
Okay.
Says it lost connection.
Well, while we're
How
doing
about now?
that,
Can you hear me now? No, he can't hear me.
while we're doing that, I'll go ahead and read out some super chats. So, Out Loud Thoughts, member for 14 months. Shout out to Jeremy, best political ads ever made.
Did something happen?
Also,
give me one
yeah.
second.
Also,
We're dealing with
Alaska
it.
is better than New Hampshire. Suck it. And then super chat, also from Out Loud Thoughts, says shout out to Ian. Hi, Out Loud Thoughts. And then
We'll see if Jeremy pops back in. How's the stream look? Is it look good?
yeah, it looks pretty good.
Can you hear me now?
Oh shit! I just realized. Hold on.
I don't think you can hear us. All right, Dickie
it on
Walnuts,
his end?
member,
No, he can
14
hear us. Okay.
months. Thank you, Dickie. How will this show bounce back after last week? Don't say F
check,
at
check.
99OT.
Check. Can you hear me now? Oh,
Yes.
Jeremy, why is
The
there
dreaded
two?
F word.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Well, it's good to provide a little drama. I don't know what happened there. I stopped like being able to hear you, and so I just did like a kind of panic refresh.
Yeah, I don't know. It said that my mic like disconnected from the audio for I don't know, dude. It's really weird. So you're back. You're back here.
It's
now.
October. It's
Okay.
Halloween, dude.
All right.
I don't know. So we were talking about Chase. I'm not a huge fan of Chase, but he's got all his lackeys out there attacking the LNC because
Well,
we don't.
Look, I'm not in terms of being a huge fan or whatever, but I don't know. I kind of like if you look at Chase, what is the percentage of disagreement that you would actually have with him compared to the average American? And there's shit that's real that you would disagree with him about, like whatever, drag shows for children or whatever. And I'm not trying to say that's not like a serious thing,
Right.
but like in the scope of all of the set of things, like, Chase wants to shrink the government quite a bit,
Sure.
more than the average American does.
Definitely more than the other two candidates.
Mhm.
There's no doubt.
Right.
About it. Yeah.
Right. And so like, I feel like I'm becoming this kind of like blue pilled pragmatist guy. I'm not trying, obviously, like I'm not trying to like, give up the fact that there's a lot of bullshit out there. But like, I just think that like, we've got to still try to support someone like Chase at the end of the day, like, because it's, like, it's just, he believes libertarian things, I think, and he's in a debate against people who don't believe libertarian things. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree, and I know Chase personally. I've like I said, I've had dinner with Chase. I've met Chase. We've sat down and talked, and I think that we agree on a lot more than I would agree with on the other candidates in that race. But there are some fundamental issues I have, like we got into a big debate about children being involved in these sexually provocative things. I don't think that should be okay. I don't think that's all right. I don't even think it's okay for parents to drag their kids to shit like that. But that's that is my own moral compass, and I understand that, and I do understand at the end of the day, if I want the government to be knocked back a little or kneecapped somewhere, I'm probably not going to agree entirely 100% with every single thing that a person says. But he does have this fundamental issue where, with the trans kids and stuff like that I just can't get behind. I mean, I literally cannot get behind mutilating children Parents mutilating children, stuff like that. So that's probably my biggest things. I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm not I'm not exactly trying to line. I'm not trying to line up behind.
I think it out real good, Jeremy. Think it out real good here, buddy.
Well, I think that's it's a big question, and it's something I'm like honestly kind of struggling with, and I didn't even mean to take the conversation here immediately, but I guess it was probably on my mind today as someone who is, on social media and so on. It's like, because it's like, it's crazy how big these divides, sort of like woke, anti-woke, or I don't want to necessarily say it's like left, right, progressive, non-progressive. I don't know, but it's like, it's become like such a dividing line that feels like as or more important than policy in terms of how people are breaking in their relationships and their affiliations. Even in Tulsi Gabbard, which has been a recent subject here, obviously.
Yeah, she was just there, right?
Yeah, but even like, why did Tulsi become a Republican, right? Like, it was literally over like woke shit, right? Like, that was the dividing factor for her. Maybe she was being opportunistic or other things, but if you look at like what the at least the ostensible and quite plausibly real reason was, like, that was the axis. And she's obviously a political actor, and she's now going to become a huge shill for the Republican Party. Like, I don't think she's a sincere person in either context, but like, 'cause she's a politician. But like, that was the axis, and entirely. I'm not saying she's entirely fake. I think politicians are actually frequently a mix of sincere and fake. But that was the axis under which she split, and it's the same kind of stuff within the LP. Like, that's the axis,
right?
And I don't even know if you can necessarily say like a lot of the woke shit is purely a cultural divide. I think there is a large policy aspect to it, because so much of the woke shit is based in Marxist ideology, and Marxist policy, and the Pablo Freire's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And there's a whole playbook for these things, and Dr. James Lindsay goes over it in his podcast, New Discords, a ton, and it's
everybody
great.
Here knows who James Lindsay is.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be dismissive of it as a real a thing. I mean, I'm trying to honestly, I'm trying to understand it, I guess, as this person who like really wants to understand things, as this kind of like pathological desire to like poke and prod at things until he understands them. Look at Kyle Rittenhouse, the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting, where like, this was fucking, I don't know if I'm not supposed to. This was like footage of something happening, right? And like, your ideology, largely this sort of woke progressive versus non-woke, non-progressive axis, like literally you could see the same video and perceive it in different ways. Right. And that's just like, it's just like mind-boggling to me. It makes me want to update like all of the ways I think about politics, because like, we can, it's like that dress that was two different colors to people almost, where it's like, like we are literally, it's like this insight to, we are perceiving reality in different ways, and then like, where do you go from here politically if we are able to perceive reality in different ways? That seems irreconcilable, Yeah,
absolutely. No, I get it fully, and it's one of those things. Like, the culture war is mostly nuanced in general, and I think people have different faith-based arguments and culture-based arguments and sexuality-based arguments, and it is something that we all like really scream past each other about. I just have my things. There's like some things out there that I'm just like, can't.
I try and keep mine as empirically based as I can. Like, I can rattle off numbers as to why transitioning children is not a good thing.
Right. And you've done that on the show before.
Yeah, I have.
Times.
That's why I'm not going to do it right now.
We've seen you do it, buddy. We know you get very impassioned.
Yeah, I can get real Rain Man about that.
Let me ask a question as someone who's trying to tease out sort of more unity in the Libertarian Party. If you and Chase Oliver were having a discussion, could you and Chase agree that like there could be some parts of America where it was like illegal to promote trans ideology, illegal to talk about it, illegal to conduct operations, and so on? Like, and then there would also be parts where like it was legal for a 16-year-old, or I don't even know what, but like, what is there something there? And it's weird. It's so like, because we don't like it.
I don't think we could have that conversation. That's the problem. Is Chase would tell you that there's no way in hell that any part of anywhere can have that be illegal and there still be freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
National divorce.
That's to me. That's my fundamental thing. Is like and I know that some people think like I'm a weird or bad guy for this, but like I'm willing to accept other places doing things that I would find like morally repulsive to happen if I were allowed a space to live the way that I want to live.
Right.
Because I know that as a libertarian, that like a lot of people think like freedom and people deciding things for themselves and these kinds of things that I believe deeply in. A lot of people actually find that repulsive.
Right.
They won't necessarily put it in those terms, but they find the idea that like people could decide things for themselves. Like they really, really reject it. And so then maybe naively, maybe stupidly, I'm kind of trying to tease this out, but I go towards like, well, okay, is it possible that we could agree? But like a lot of people really reject that idea.
Jeremy, I want to jump in here. This is AJ.
Yeah.
You're describing the national divorce.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that? I mean, that's basically what you're describing is, okay, you have an area of the country over here where this is legal and this is what we do. And then over here, if you decide that's not for you, then you live over here.
Well, I would say that national divorce should be at least a 3-way. That's I think important to emphasize.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's the idea. Like just recognizing that we have these differences, and I'm not trying to suggest that we give up on persuasion. It's great if we can persuade one another and we can convince one another that X or Y is better. But right now, it's this constant struggle for dominance. It's this constant struggle to dominate one another, and it does seem smarter to me to say, well, we have these differences. They appear to be irreconcilable. Let's, kind of divide things up a bit. But I think that means that like, if we're in the Libertarian Party, like we want to be encouraging that even if we disagree on things, like maybe we end up on different sides of that divide, like maybe we end up in different areas or whatever. Right. And so I think the key question with members of the Libertarian Party like Chase Oliver, where there are these disagreements, it's like, the key divide should be like, are you a universalist? Like, do you feel that your prescription or view of the world is like correct for everyone? And if you think that, then it's going to be difficult to get along. Even if you're a universalist that shares my values. But if you're saying that like, well, I think these things, but also I think that there should be space in the world for you to believe the things that you believe, to me, like I want to work with those people. Like I would work with a communist who believes those things, because the communists can have California or Seattle or whatever, as long as the libertarians get New Hampshire. And it, like, if we're aligned in that way, then we should work together.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole point of national divorce, right?
Yeah.
There's people in this country that I don't want to live with.
Yeah. There's no agreement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You could try to. I hear your argument about persuasion, Jeremy, and I agree with you on that. For as far as trying to find unity, especially within the Libertarian Party, but I feel that we're getting to a point where there's some people that just not only aren't going to be persuaded, they don't even want to listen to your argument. They shut down your speech before you can even get there.
But when we're saying national divorce, when we're saying those things, like it's important to recognize, and like Michael Malice has a great meme on this about like national divorce from the left. Like I want national divorce because it's all these like this like leftist reasons, like to get away from the racists, and or whatever. But like if we have these disagreements, like when we say that, we are accepting that their spaces will be used to do things that we think are gross. Like when you're saying national divorce, like you are saying, like, yeah, let the drag strip shows happen in New York City, so long as I'm not coupled to them. Like that is what you're saying. I'm not trying to be like too like blunt or reductive. Maybe I'm being a bad salesman here because I feel like I'm making it like sound bad. but that's the attitude we have to kind of have. And so like our allies are people who like don't want to demand the whole world become their way. And so anyone who wants to say like, I believe this thing and I want to space the world, even if we disagree with that thing, if they're saying like, let's split things up, let's let there be more diversity, we've got to try to ally with them, in my view.
Yeah, and I mean I get that, you know what I mean? But yeah. It also makes me like if I was in New Hampshire, okay, and then Connecticut had its community doing drag shows and for kids and I don't know whatever else they want to do out there, the leftists
castrating them,
like physically
genital mutilation,
I feel
like all
I
of
might
those
want to
great
go a little
things.
vigilante justice there, you know what I mean?
No,
and I'm not allowed to.
That's Russian talk. That's Putin talk. That's Putin talk.
Excuse me, you're in New Hampshire. You guys are all Putin apologists, by the way.
The right way to do it is you can advertise in Connecticut, so you can drop your literature, and talk about how disgusting they are and how they need to leave Connecticut, and come join the enlightened free state. But no, I don't. I think you've got to. That's kind of what it means. That's what it means. Is you're accepting that there will be different spaces with different rules.
Well, and it's so funny because I know that, you know what I mean? But I also understand like the other side of this debate, right? This other side of this debate is like, we can't do that because then there'll be racist societies, right? Like that's the thing that they always say. They'll be racist, misogynistic, transphobic, like spaces, right? And we can't let them have their own space. And it's like, do you understand those people are going to be like that no matter what you do? Wouldn't you rather have them like go to the middle of the country somewhere and take over some community and just let them fucking be who they want to be there in their community and leave them the fuck alone? Doesn't that make sense?
Of course, yeah. That's the argument, because it's so, that's what's so crazy about all of it. But it's what's crazy about it, and then it's also kind of as a second level, it's like what it reveals about us, right? Because it reveals that the sort of superficial causes. Oh, I want to stop racism. No, what you want to do is dominate others, right? Like that's what we tend to, as humans, present these superficial reasons that sound great as to why we want things, and then it turns out that there's these hidden, much more selfish motives, and that's what we frequently find. And I think you see that all the time in the anti-racist movement, and I think you see it with all of this stuff, and that's sort of what explains it, even. Yeah.
No, I agree, and I wonder. I sometimes think about this national divorce thing. I'm a California boy, born and raised.
Yeah.
I love the heat and I love the beach and the forests and the mountains and all that shit's great. But I know that if we had national divorce, my state is toast. It's gone.
Oh, yeah, it's gone.
Like 100%, it's gone. And
but it's already gone. It's already gone. Like, what's the path to it? Returning.
True. I think we'll be okay in Iowa, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we would be all right.
I do. We got some super. I don't know if anybody was asking questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly states that are going to do third or fourth or fifth best, and Iowa's absolutely in competition for those down rankings.
I agree, and I had this,
we can go for second.
I actually had an argument with somebody in the chat for one of our videos here, and I don't even think he's from New Hampshire, but he's a good dude. We had a very big disagreement about policy between New Hampshire and Iowa, and I said it's not that much different here. No, we don't have legal weed yet, but we have one of the best homeschool states in the country. We have constitutional carry. They are working on a bill, like AJ said when we did our show together, to not let the federal government, not take on any more gun laws
Yeah.
whatsoever from the federal government, which is a good thing. I would rather have a bill that is pushing to nullify all federal gun laws.
Absolutely, that's on its way. I feel it's on its way. But we have space here too. We
Yeah,
have space
A
to
lot
get
of
away
space.
from someone.
A lot of space.
If you don't like
Yeah.
your neighbor, you
I
can
know.
move a
Yeah.
long ways
I don't-
away.
I don't think that's an argument against New Hampshire specifically, but like, yeah, look, I'm not trying to turn it into the kind of like that kind of thing. I think it's clear that like where I think there can be agreement is like this is a much more optimistic kind of path, is this kind of aligning of values and aligning of interests, that it opens up all kinds of possibilities once you get these sort of network effects of a certain size. And so like I actually think in terms of for the libertarian movement, for the Libertarian Party, it's like it doesn't need to be about New Hampshire specifically, but just like getting more on board with this idea that it's not a national kind of victory is kind of unlikely. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like too black-pilled. I'm actually a pretty optimistic person, but like that sort of local type, carving out some spaces in some places one way or another, the power of local networks, when you have networks of people who reject the state and what that enables, that is this really powerful thing that libertarians can be seeking, that can give us this freedom, even in an unfree world,
Level Zero, thanks for the $5 super chat. He said California will be China Junior, but more Marxist. National divorce is the way. There will always be evil countries out in the world. And Jacob Morgan said New Hampshire is better than Alaska only due to mosquitoes.
That's true. We don't want. There's one like half of the mosquitoes. There's like several mosquito breeds, and several of them like don't breed in New Hampshire, so we don't have nearly as many mosquitoes.
Yeah, it's funny because Iowa has mosquitoes.
Yeah.
But only like at the end of summer, and then they're gone because it starts getting cold.
It used to be worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have their like ecological niche or whatever, and so if it meets those criteria, then they're there for that
They
time.
suck no matter what.
Oh yeah. But it used to be like end of spring, all of summer, you'd have mosquitoes flying about, but now it's just more like end of summer.
Yeah, we get the trucks driving down the road spraying shit for
they're spraying
mosquito larvae.
Yeah, they're spraying mosquitoes. I'm sure.
Yeah, they're spraying them.
Yeah, they're spraying.
We need to do what Florida does, though. They're completely eradicating mosquitoes. They genetically alter the females; they can't reproduce. Then they release that out in the wild. I don't know how that's going, but we can check in on them here.
Yeah, because they were like, I think they're the second worst mosquito.
Yeah, they want to get rid of mosquitoes. Period.
Because Florida's bad with mosquitoes, but Alaska is the worst. You know that,
They're
right?
big.
They call them their state bird. They say their state bird is the mosquito. I've been to Alaska.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place.
Oh yeah, they're like 3 feet big. It's crazy. I've never
nuts,
seen.
dude.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, we should probably address. You obviously make tweets that really hurt people's vaginas quite frequently, and people get really mad at you about that. And it's funny to me as somebody who's hung out with you in person several times now, and then spent some time really sitting down and talking with you at Porkfest, which is an amazing place that everyone should go to. Porkfest is an amazing festival every year, and it's worth it to go there. I promise you. You're like a disc golf nerd who's a very down to earth and nice guy, and kind of almost like a peace loving hippie. And
I am.
And somehow you've gotten this stigma around you that you're like this giant neo-Nazi white nationalist who hates trans people and gay people, and it's just like it's this crazy like folklore surrounding you. I mean, what do you think is the root cause of that? Do you think it's just your tweets, or do you think people are malicious for some other reason?
So I think part of it. So I think there's the divide in the Libertarian Party is substantially between, you've got this camp of people who are like, they've sort of rationally concluded that libertarianism is correct. Like they're not emotional libertarians. Like they don't find authority offensive. They're not they're not sort of deontologically like this, sort of like that it's like just correct to not interfere. But they've just kind of like been logically persuaded that like libertarianism would produce better outcomes, right? And they're very smart people. They're frequently economists, and so on. And so they share this conclusion with this sort of like 80% of libertarians who are like, fuck the government. Like, we don't like it, it's just offensive to us. And it's not, I'm not saying that those people can't understand the logical arguments, but like, it's much more about the fact that like, it's just offensive to them. Right. And I'm like someone who can fucking fuck with the first camp because I'm very smart. Right. Like, I understand all the logical arguments, but like emotionally, I'm much more with the second camp. And so I break these people's brains with some of my arguments, quite frankly. Like, they can't even engage with it because like they're so, it breaks them and it upsets them and it just turns them into haters of me personally. Because like none of them can engage. I would have a logical conversation. I'm open to being persuaded if you want to have this evidence back and forth, kind of thing. And so like, because you can see like they can't even quote tweet me anymore. Like, they'll just like take a picture,
get screenshot,
and just be, and it's just like, oh, this is wrong. Right? Like, it's not even they can't even explain it. Like, I've just completely broken them intellectually.
Well, I think my favorite recently was the you made the tweet about the test scores.
Yeah.
And you posted it and you're like, you can't tell me there's not some racial disparities here in testing, which I'm sure, in your head, you're thinking, and of course that can be attributed to other things as well, not just racial stuff, but because of the racial breakdown and the concentrations and stuff like that. Like, that's how that works. And it happens. And they're like, oh my God, he's a terrible white nationalist. And I look at this test score thing that he puts out, and at the very top is Asians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's Asians.
Yeah. Well, but of course they would also say that is also, as I think you had back and forth. I saw back and forth with you.
Yeah, they told me that white nationalists regularly think of Asians as honorary white people or some dumb shit.
That's
like
a brand new progressive phenomenon.
Very simple, and this is the thing, right? Because there's a very simple fact here that's like irrefutable, right? Like, we don't have to argue about how or why these disparities exist. We literally don't. The point is, when we're asking questions like, why are there these different ratios in terms of the number of African-American doctors versus Asian ones or white ones or Hispanic ones or other types of things beyond doctors? Like, there's a very straightforward answer that like we know at the time of adulthood, through college, even after college, by every measure, that like there are these disparities that exist. If we want to believe that these are environmental, fine. That's perfectly fine. The point is, you got to go and fix it at that level, right? Like, if systemic racism exists, then it's the public school teachers that are systemically racist, not the people hiring people for jobs, not the Fortune 500 companies. The systemic racism exists in the elementary schools and the middle schools and the public school. Right, like that, and so that's the point that I'm really trying to hammer home when I talk about that kind of stuff. We don't even have to agree on why these kinds of disparities happen, but we've got to stop asking, why are there these disparities in outcomes? The disparities exist at much younger ages, so it's clearly not racism in the process of hiring or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a disparity that exists, and yeah, I mean, it does start young. And that's true.
And I would be interested to see how those disparities correlate with rates of fatherlessness, because I would bet they're pretty similar.
Well, then you also have to get to a point where you understand the rates of fatherlessness by race.
Yeah, those numbers are out there.
Don't go there.
Yeah, AJ's over here just like,
oh yeah,
he's ready. He's got the stats ready to go.
I've got a counter one. Actually, here's my counter stat. I picked this one up from Brian Kaplan, libertarian economist, in terms of single fatherhood. If you look at parental outcomes, the parental outcomes of single families where the father or mother died due to an accident or died at war, outcomes are much, much better despite single family outcomes compared to outcomes in which the parents chose to split sort of voluntarily or never coupled in a strong fashion. And so I think this is really interesting fact in terms of how much of this actually the single family household versus parents who had a proclivity towards non-committal behavior, more risk-taking parents in the first place, then having children that then exhibit these characteristics. And I'm not suggesting a strong conclusion in either fashion, but I think these are the kinds of like interesting questions to be asking.
That's well said. That's well said.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal question that I will be thinking about for the next year.
Because I will say, like, I do have a view that there are differences, between us, and that, like, I do think I'm all for judging the individual. I've hired people of every race and ethnicity. I hired a 16-year-old kid from Pakistan off of I hired all people of all every kind of flavor or whatever. But it's like we can't. We shouldn't expect. I don't know. I just don't think like you can expect, completely everything, to be the same. So we judge people as individuals. That's very important. But we shouldn't necessarily expect, all outcomes to be the same.
Can I ask you about the Google employee that was made that released that email about
James Moore?
Yeah, girls and boys and their proclivity towards tech, right? So you're kind of a tech guy. It's a good question for you. I wanted you to get your comments on this. His intention for that email was actually to help females get into STEM, and that was completely overlooked.
Yeah.
The wokist got a hold of that and said, "Oh, here you're pointing out the male patriarchy and the dominance of males in I think in just tech jobs overall." And his intention was actually to show that discrepancy, just like you're saying. You can agree that there's a discrepancy. You don't have to talk about you don't have to worry about the reason. The reason was guys get into tech more than girls. It's just something in them. Yeah, it's something inherent
in the broader
in
sense,
males and
men
females. And you can talk that's a different conversation. But to say that it was sexist to hire men in tech above women was completely false. And his intention was actually to try and even out that number, without using sexism, without using reverse sexism.
Yeah, they hate that, and that's the problem. It's like so much of the counter side, like they have emotionally held beliefs, and you are rejecting them with logic.
Yes,
and so all they're going to do is get mad at you because it wasn't a logically held belief in the first place. So right. So same kind of thing. Yes, like one of the arguments I believe Damore makes is that these differences in proclivities exist at much younger ages. So you can't get mad at Google for, not having enough women, like when there aren't enough women in, in the colleges, or you can look at even younger ages, because there's computer science classes in high schools, and these differences exist then. But it's literally, but the other side will go, because this is called, actually there's a term for this in the industry. It's called the pipeline problem.
Yes.
Of course, accepting that I don't accept that it's a problem, but that's the term used. And like literally, the other side will go and say like they'll make a bingo card as like pipeline problem is a sign that you're a bigot, like just using the phrase. And so because they can't engage in logical consideration of these ideas or concepts. All they can engage in is the emotional based censorship of discussing them in the first place. And that's why you see this kind of dialogue, around concepts, in this area. It's the same with the Kanye, the Kanye shit as well, right? Like it's like a logical discussion of anything there is completely tabooed. It's pure emotion. That's the only thing that's allowed. Emotionally, mostly for the most part, emotionally saying you're evil and you're not allowed to talk.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to me that this is how things are treated. And I don't know if I'm like more logical than anybody else. I mean, I get emotional about shit too. You know what I mean? And I have my own moral, like I said, moral compass, and there's things that I just can't abide by. But yeah, some of these arguments are pretty crazy, dude. When I'm like arguing about, like, I think and I hate to bring it up in 2 weeks in a row, but I think one of the biggest examples of this is when Ryan's over there squirming. I think that one of the biggest examples of this is when you criticize the state of Israel. I really do. I think it's one of the biggest examples of you will automatically be labeled an anti-Semitic if you
Instantly.
say anything bad about the Zionist apartheid state of Israel. Like literally, somebody will be like, "You're an anti-Semitic." I'll be like, "Why?"
All right, for everyone in the chat playing the drinking game, take a drink. Josh mentioned Israel.
Well, I got in trouble for this one from the other side.
Yeah, the Republicans will get mad at you about that.
Well, no, I once said, and this is actually one of my haters, like favorite quotes. I was saying, look, it's not irrational to be anti-Semitic, in the sense that like you can gang up on people, because to me, it's like I'm like a very cynical person. I'm an optimist. I'm like a loving person at the same time while being cynical. So it's like a kind of weird, set of characteristics. Like I'm very optimistic for the future. I'm very pro humanity. But I'm also kind of like try to be this kind of like cynical realist about who we are. And to me, it's like if you can give human beings a narrative that allows some mass of them to gang up and take stuff from another smaller, weaker group of them, like human beings will almost always accept that narrative. It's weird to not accept that narrative. Like I think I'm the kind of person who's not accepting of narratives like that, but I accept that I'm weird, right? Like I think that's human nature. That explains COVID. That explains the Holocaust. That explains slavery. That explains fucking a million different things throughout human history, which is that we are like self-interested kind of entities who will believe all kinds of narratives that they benefit us to believe them. And so all kinds of racism and ethnic-based violence become essentially rational behavior. Again, not saying ethical, rational in this sort of narrow sense.
In this society, like the sense of the society has become accepting of it because.
But you point stuff like this out, and like people become very uncomfortable even having the conversation. And I can't help myself. I just have that orientation of like just being a curious, like truth-seeking person. I'm not trying to put a value judgment on this. I'm not endorsing it. If anything, I would kind of condemn it. But like it's just the truth. And I just can't help being that I'm just that kind of person who like pokes at the truth and like, is this the truth? Is this the truth? Like, and it just seems to be true to me that this is how people are. And I think that Jews rationally then, like, to counteract the fact that human beings want to gang up on each other, try to taboo the discussions of disproportionate Jewish success. It's rational for Jews to taboo that discussion because it's rational for non-Jews to try to gang up on Jews. Right. And so like that's the kind of why we have this current state of affairs.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to hear that argument is almost like it's close to what the argument that Kanye is making. You know what I mean? But Kanye is, I think, wrong. Right. But let me be clear. Like, I think Kanye is wrong. Like, right. I think like there's not a Jewish conspiracy against Kanye. There's a group of people who want to make money and who will take advantage of people who aren't as smart as them. And like a lot of, it's not, it's just like people will give each other, like someone will give someone else a contract that fucks that person over if it makes the money. That's just like a lot of human beings will do that. And so a lot of these rappers like aren't, like they're not that knowledgeable about business and they get given contracts by people who, yeah, you could say that they trick them to some extent. Like I wouldn't say that's like necessarily a wrong description. Right.
But like, it's like, fully within libertarian theory. I mean, we could condemn them, I guess, but it's not some conspiracy. It's just self-interest.
Are you saying hip hop is a shady business?
It's all shady, dude. Every business is shady.
Speaking of shady businesses, how's the lawsuit going with Library, buddy?
Oh my God, I'm dying. It's going great though, overall. No, because I think the longer it takes, the more likely I am to get a positive outcome. But it is like it's very miserable because it's like so much money and it's like really on the line in terms of potential outcomes for me. And I just, it's just going to come out any day. And like, yeah, we can appeal. So like in this theoretical sense, it's not final, but in reality, this sort of intermediate decision becomes a reality for several years. So no matter what, the decision is very impactful. And I've just got to kind of refresh a shitty government website that logs me out every 30 minutes to hope it comes out at any given day.
Have you had to make have you had to make any kind of concessions to the government over this lawsuit? I mean, have you had to change anything about library or do anything while this was going on?
No.
Nice. For those people that don't know what we're talking about, what is the lawsuit for?
So I am the founder of a technology called Library, LBRY. It's a open source blockchain based Web3 protocol for publishing content. Most people know it through the website called Odyssey, which is used by millions of people each day to watch videos. It's kind of like YouTube before it got stupid, but there's this very deep technology behind it that basically tries to do to publishing what Bitcoin does to money. It brings sort of sovereignty back to the individual and lets you own your identity, lets you own what you're publishing and this kind of thing. And we have been embroiled in a case with the federal government for 4.5 years. That's coming to a head like literally right now, like literally to the day right now. 4.5 year fight. So yeah.
Wow.
What is the fight about?
Jeremy.
What's up?
I guess he can't hear you very well.
He can't hear me?
Sorry.
He was asking you what the fight is about.
So technically it's over whether we committed a Section 5 securities violation, an unregistered securities offering. So the government is claiming that if my company sells any of the library token at any time, even if it sells it anonymously on an open market, that is an investment contract between my company and that individual. And even if that individual pledged to buy that token to use it on the library network, nonetheless, a reasonable investor would consider that to have been a speculative investment that they were planning to make money based off of the efforts of other people, which makes it a security, which means that the only trading of that instrument, the only exchanging of that instrument can be done in these highly regulated silos. It can't be traded, can't just be freely exchanged. You have to go through highly regulated where, every exchange is tracked.
And what's your counter argument in this case?
Well, lots of people don't buy it as an investment, is one of the biggest ones, as well as the fact that we didn't contract with anyone. People don't even know that they're buying it, from us. But the most fundamental reason is that word library isn't trying to be money. It's not trying to be a financial instrument. It's trying to be this kind of public resource where anyone can put in this public blockchain that this content exists, that they created something. And so, there's not really any reason over any kind of medium to long term to have this token other than to use it, right? We're not claiming that we're going to replace the dollar or any of these things. We're just, yeah. We're not a competitor to Bitcoin in any way. Bitcoin doesn't try to do what Library does, and Library doesn't try to do what Bitcoin does.
Which is crazy. And there has been a lot of, the SEC has gone after a lot of these different companies over the last, I don't know what, probably 5 years. Obviously with you saw it much more publicly with like XRP. They really have been, I think XRP is still embroiled in that battle as well, right?
They are, but we're going to be done first. And so, our case will set a precedent for thousands of American companies. Like we're really talking about, this case will affect billions, if not trillions of dollars in the United States blockchain market. It's going to become the precedent because there's been no case. The only previous precedents were ICOs, which are very, very different from this case. We didn't do an ICO. We didn't sell any tokens until more than a year after the network was fully functional. And the SEC is alleging that tokens that we sold 4 years after the network being functional, that we sold anonymously, a small percentage of daily volume of trading of the token was nonetheless a securities offering, which is just a much, much bolder thing than they've claimed in any other case that's actually been litigated.
It's wild, man. This shit is absolutely crazy the way they go after. I mean, people are like, oh, we live in a capitalist society. That's not capitalism, dude. That's not how capitalism works.
No, it's insane. I mean, there's so many things that could be built. We live, in my view, just so far away from a free market, and it's honestly one of the reasons I'm a libertarian. It's actually probably the biggest reason. I have full respect for the sort of like prepper, collapser, doomer, and I'm not trying to be pejorative in any way, like because I think it's quite reasonable to be concerned about the future in a sort of negative way. But like honestly, if I'm just being honest, like I'm a libertarian because I think there's so much cool shit that we could, as human beings, could be doing, that we could be building, that we could be creating, whether that's anywhere from art to going to Mars, and so much of it is just inhibited, by the government. And I just want human beings to flourish and to be beautiful and to be, doing and going and doing all these beautiful and interesting and diverse things.
I was explicitly told that you were a libertarian because you wanted your own private ethno state.
Well, I think that should be allowed, but that's not why I'm a libertarian.
Yeah, that's just a byproduct, a fortunate byproduct of it.
It's funny because I'm telling you, if you've ever sat down and shook Jeremy's hand and had a beer with a guy, he's like the furthest thing from what they paint him as online, dude. It's crazy. It's really bizarre to me.
Just sitting down.
Yeah. I mean,
right now,
I will take like 10%. It's mostly them, right? It's mostly that I mind fuck them, which is so they have to like villainize me because they have to taboo the things I say, because if people engage with them, they'll be persuaded, right? That's why they resort to tabooing. I will take like 10% of the blame in the sense that like I am that like I'm not I don't have a tattoo, but the tattoo that I considered getting for the longest time was there's a Galileo. He never actually said it. Is big why part I didn't get it, but there's this claim that he used to say at per si move, which is like that yet it moves, that he went into the Catholic Church and said like I don't care, the earth revolves around the sun, you can't get me to lie to you, right? And this was like I found this like parable, which I think it turns out to be false after researching it, but I found it like a really compelling story. So like as an insight into my psychology, like I am attracted to things that might be true that other people think aren't true. I'm not trying to be like, radical about it. I try to be kind of humble about whether it's true or not. But I'm drawn to when there's a kind of controversy around an idea, like I'm drawn to those kinds of things. I become curious about them.
And we all are. That's the thing, is we all are, dude.
We are.
Yeah, like Sandy Hook.
No, but it's not just us though. Let's look. It's us with things that we can agree are morally reprehensible, but still are interested in knowing more about across the board. Because look at the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary that just came out and how widely, amazingly popular it was, because people want to know about that stuff, even though they think it's morally reprehensible. That's one of our, society's got an addiction to serial killers. We want to know. We're obsessed with serial killers. We're obsessed with all these bad things. We're obsessed with car accident videos and that kind of shit, because it's interesting. You want to know more about it. It's not necessarily that you agree with every single facet of that thing. Of course, I don't want to go out and first of all, I don't want to be gay, and I don't want to go kill people, and I definitely don't want to eat them. You know what I mean? But I do want to know more about Jeffrey Dahmer, because you want to know how that shit works. You want to know why he was the way he was, and that's why
I like that you are more averse to eating people than being gay.
I'm the other way around.
And Dahmer was more averse to being a racist than being a cannibal.
Right.
That's true.
Yes.
They came out with a documentary, and he actually called. I think did he call from prison? We'll say he did. I'm
sure that's where it was.
Let's say he called from prison, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know I didn't pick those black men based on race. I'm not a racist."
Right.
He didn't want to be called a racist. He was okay with being
He's totally
a
fine
cannibal.
with the fact that like, hey, I eat people.
I eat people,
and flay
but
them open, and
I mean,
have
is
heads in my mouth.
there any better evidence that he was a progressive
than being a cannibal?
Well, right, that he didn't want to be called a racist, but that he was fine with eating people.
Exactly.
I mean, he was
true. Yeah.
He was mutilating the bodies of young teenagers, drilling a hole in their head and pouring acid in, like
crazy shit.
Yeah.
Legit crazy shit. But he wasn't racist. He wants you to know he wasn't racist.
He wasn't racist.
He was creating black zombies.
I will say
it
it is hard for me. Like I accept that, like I do accept that evil people exist, but then I will say, like you like learn to read about some of that shit, and you're like, it's just like
can't comprehend it.
So like unfathomable.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I can actually kind of like empathize or picture a lot of different beliefs, like even communist type stuff. But then like you learn about some of that depraved stuff, and I'm like, but like it's just so out of it. There's no context for it.
Well, it's crazy. You know, they say the more obsessive you are over this like macabre shit, the less likely you are to be that kind of person. And that's it makes sense. It's because you want to like, I'm obsessed, dude. Like, I don't know, you guys don't know this, but like I have read the entire Murderpedia, dude. I could tell you facts about I could tell you
what
facts.
does it mean if I'm not interested?
I could tell you facts. I could tell you facts about serial killers from all over the world, all kinds of different murders, homicide. I mean, I spend like a lot of free time reading about this shit.
Well,
dude.
Iowa had like the first serial killer.
The first
What?
serial
No.
killer?
I'm serious. It's debated as to whether we had the first serial killer. He
In America.
So
the name escapes me.
Iowa invented cereal and serial killers.
It's possible.
Oh, as serial killers had to exist before Iowa did.
Well, yes. But I'm saying documented American serial killer.
Okay,
In
documented
the United States,
American.
I believe it was
Yes.
in Iowa.
You know, I've never really tried to figure out who the first serial
Yeah,
killer
I
was.
can't
and
remember
don't know.
his name escapes me, but he was putting he put them in the walls. He would kill them and put them in the walls, and it was a
Robert Pena says
like a Sicario.
Robert Pena says, tell us about the Zodiac, dude. You don't want me to get into that. I got some fucking crazy conspiracy theories. I believe that the Zodiac killer was Ted Kaczynski. If you want to know the very truth.
No
of
way.
the matter, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
That's like my dude. We
I've
can talk
never
about
heard
that.
of it. I'm gonna pause the show and not participate to Google this in real time.
Yeah, there's a legit conspiracy theory about this, Jeremy. So he was.
I don't think
he
that
was
would make any
attending Cal.
sense.
He was attending Cal while this
Yep.
was happening. And there was people. I mean, if you look at the sketches that came out, it looked like a young Ted.
Okay, but was this before the LSD experiments?
The
I don't
CIA
remember. I
experiments
yeah,
where
I'll
they
have to look
basically
again.
tortured
He was
him.
part of MK Ultra, dude.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they say. But I'm telling
Yeah.
you, dude. Look,
For real.
He does claim that it didn't fuck him up at all. Like he was unaffected.
okay.
Like he was like, yeah, it was
They
no
gave
big
him
deal.
LSD and told him he was a piece of shit for like 3 years.
Look into the conspiracy theory that he's the Zodiac. There's like legit
Okay.
like a lot of
I'll check that
information
out.
there
Oh
that
my
you can
God.
read that will give you you'll go down whether it's true or not. You'll go down a rabbit hole
Yeah.
thinking about it. Kevin Brady, thanks for the $10 super chat, man. He said the SEC will allow giant hedge funds or markets makers to trade the float of stock over 2 times on a daily candle and allow big banks to manipulate gold, silver. But how dare you make a token?
Right?
Yeah, I mean it's like one of the clearest examples of an agency just being completely corrupt, completely depraved.
You think-
It's like it's absurd the way that they've behaved. I will say it's interesting. Like one of the reasons that social media makes me optimistic is that these people like Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, but you could look at other examples, all the various federal government accounts, like which Spike Cohen does a very good job trolling. So shout out to Spike for doing a good job there. But beyond people like him, like just all kinds, it's hundreds, thousands of different people. You see people just like regularly like exposing these agencies and calling them out, like, and it's just so unpopular. And it does seem to me that like social media makes it harder to control the narrative, and that's why it's so important for them to try to control social media.
Right.
And I do
Of course.
accept that at times they've been effective in controlling the narrative because they have been able to exert that control on social media. But I think that like it's actually better, like even on the whole, even on the balance. I'm not happy with the status quo, but like if you compare today to like 30 or 40 years ago, more signal is getting through, I think, actually.
No, and I agree. I think that's true. I think there's, 30 years ago, it was like if you wanted to reach people, you had to make your own zine. I mean, that was, I don't know if you guys remember zines. You're
Yep.
probably too young for zines.
I know what
right?
they are.
He's like, I know what they are. It's just a magazine that you hand make,
Hmm.
and then you print a bunch out and you pass them out in like punk shows. That was the big place you could
Yep.
get zines when I was a kid, was punk shows. But that's how you learned about that's how I
It's
learned
like the
about
beta versions of Sonichu.
that's how I learned about like new music and like all kinds of shit when I was a kid, dude, was like handwritten zines, bro.
We didn't have a lot of zines in Iowa,
Yeah.
but I know what
yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm that age group.
Are you born and raised in Iowa?
Yeah.
You are.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Third
The country
generation
or-
East Sider.
Or Des Moines?
I wanted to ask Jeremy about culture jamming, and what if you're familiar with Alex Stein and how he does that. It's hard for him to do it now because he's so well known. But would you describe your campaign ads as culture jamming?
I'm supportive of that idea. As to whether it would apply to me, I kind of like want it to, but I'm not sure I deserve it yet, I guess.
I definitely think you do. I think you deserve that.
I already deserve
awesome.
it. Okay. I guess like how much maybe I'm not does the concept involve like actually jamming something in reality, or is the idea that tell me, maybe I'm not getting the concept fully actually.
I see a similarity between your ads and what Alex Stein does, where he'll show up to a council meeting about something trans, and he'll show up and say, I totally agree with you. My 5-year-old trans nephew was talking about this the other day. And like, show up to he'll show up as a female swimmer.
That was the best.
He showed up in a bikini and,
I think comedy is one of our most powerful tools. I think it's a way that we can disrupt the culture. I think that kind of like agree and amplify type technique at times can be, very powerful, where you're going and talking about like, how pro-trans you are and how, just saying things that like, but then you say things that like almost everyone would disagree. Well, like literally everyone would disagree with. And so I do think that can be a technique with legs. Yeah.
Well, and I think that comedy is our most powerful tool. I've said that several times, and that's one of the reasons why. The woke and the left want to cancel comedy so bad. They want to cancel comedians who tell, the truth or satirize. I always fuck that word up. They're the leftist stereotype tropes. But that's why they want them canceled, because comedy is such a fucking powerful tool that you can use it to start a revolution. I mean, you really, really can. You can use it to start, especially a cultural revolution, man. I mean, people go to watch comedians, and when you like empathize with the comedian and you're part of what they're talking about, and then they make you laugh. I mean, when you're laughing, that's the time you're the most open to speaking with somebody. It's not when somebody comes up and goes, "You're a fucking racist. Now listen to what I have to say." Like, no one wants to listen to you talk to them like that. You know what I mean? Nobody wants, and I get it, because I very often I call people in arguments online nerds and retards and shit like that. And that's, those are people that I have no interest in arguing with whatsoever. That's what that typically is. I most of the time I already know that that's a bad faith actor, that doesn't matter what I fucking say. They're going to just start going off about my kids or some other dumb shit. So, you know what? Fuck you. You're a retard. Like, I don't need to have that conversation with you, because I know that it's not going to go anywhere. But I do believe that there are times when I meet people who I disagree vehemently on things with, that I would like to have a conversation with. And I'd like that conversation to be a light conversation.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you're going to get to have the best outcome from that conversation, not being an asshole. And so there are people out there that I think, want to ruin comedy because they know that it's the start of a cultural revolution, truly.
Well, think about Richard Pryor. I mean, we used to think about the comedy of Richard Pryor, how he talked about race, and whites and blacks would sit there in the audience and die laughing. And now today, they want to cancel Dave Chappelle.
Right.
I mean,
he's an honorary
it's ridiculous.
White nationalist, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll say I have two comments here. So one, I will say that like the tabooing of things, the walling of things, and I will admit to being a kind of inveterate optimist, but I think that there's an argument that like you can even view this optimistically. This sort of argument, but that like the Berlin Wall didn't go up until 15 years after communism, right? That like the censorship being required to maintain the idea is a sign of weakness of the idea, right? And so the more they need to censor, the more you're actually kind of gaining ground, right? Hopefully that's true. I like to believe it's true.
It's the white pill, man.
Yeah, shit, I think I had a second point, but I forgot.
You said there was two things you wanted to say.
Yeah, I did have a second point. But
let me get this man a beer, quick.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll just continue.
Hey, so Jeremy, what's the next Pork Fest looking like, man? You think it's going to be even bigger than this last one?
Well, it's going to be very big. I mean, look, people need to come to New Hampshire. I mean, Pork Fest is the best time to come. You can really get a real, it's like you can meet more Free Staters than any other event. I would like to see over 3,000 people at Pork Fest this year, which I think is realistic. Like, this is the gathering. Pork Fest is the gathering of libertarians.
What was the number of this past year? Do you know?
I believe it was over 2,500.
It was huge, dude. I was there.
Yeah.
It was big. It was big.
Yeah. And I think it was the biggest ever. And just everything here. I mean, it's constant. People are coming in here all the time. Like, I can't even go to an event without there being several new people. And they're like, oh yeah, I just moved to New Hampshire. I'm a libertarian. And so I'm very, very optimistic for the future living in New Hampshire. It does kind of feel like as things get worse that New Hampshire gets, better. So I think anyone who's, kind of curious about it should just come and check it out. Come for a vacation, come to Pork Fest. I think Pork Fest is I think it's got to be one of the best ways to dip your toe in the water. Just come out and have a good time for a week with thousands of other libertarians. It's a very good time.
Well, and it's a really fun event. The park that the campground that it was at is really nice. It's a really nice area. Nolan, who's the chair of the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire, who's like a brother to me. I love that guy to death. He had a nice little scooter out there, and he let me take the scooter down the highway, and there's mountains everywhere and forests, and it's beautiful, dude. It is absolutely gorgeous in New Hampshire. I'm not gonna lie. If we were not tied to Iowa for the next 10 to 14 years, we would live in New Hampshire. There's no doubt about it. Or Florida, but probably New Hampshire.
And we had a great time filming that video.
We did. I was so mad. So if you saw Jeremy's cop video with Robbie the Cop Bernstein, which is hilarious, by the way, if you haven't seen it, it was a long video too. What was it? 12 minutes?
Yeah, that's my film debut essentially.
Yeah. And I was driving the golf cart for Dan Smotz, who was filming the whole thing, and I was upset because there was a time where during this filming where I was like, okay, I want to be in it. I want to be in this video, right? And Dan's like, dude, how funny would it be? Because Robbie's going around checking the porta potties all cop-like with his gun out. And how funny would it be if he opens a porta potty and you're in there with a laptop podcasting, with a joint hanging out of your mouth or something? I was like, dude, that would be fucking hilarious. So we were going to do that, except that we filmed for hours. And by the end of it, everyone's like, all right, let's go back to the campsite. And I was like, oh, we'll do it tomorrow. And then it just never did it. Yeah. And so that didn't end up being in the video, but that was an idea that was supposed to be in the video. So I didn't get to be in Jeremy's video, but I was driving the golf cart in front of him, filming the whole thing. So many of those shots. You deserve a lot of credit for that. It was cool though. He put me in the end of the video and said golf cart driver. I was like, nice, because it was fun. It was fun until I had to stare at Robbie Bernstein's ass.
It's been fun. I think we've been talking about that, and I think the sort of LPNH crew that's been behind those videos, because it's not just me. Reed's been involved, Bill Barger's been involved.
Bill's great too. I love Bill, man. He's funny.
Yeah. Bill's got a bright future, and but yeah, I think we're gonna keep that going. I think we're gonna try to do kind of keep doing some satirical videos and kind of become a kind of gosh, I don't want to say I'm part of a comedy troupe. That sounds really gay. But we're going to do something.
He said gay is a pejorative. Tomorrow, Fake Taryn's going to be all over your shit tomorrow, buddy.
Objectively, that would be homosexual.
Pretty homosexual, yeah.
Your videos you could slot right into a South Park episode, and they would be
one
in
of
place.
Our best candidates is a homosexual. His name's Chase Oliver. He's running for Senate.
He is very gay, too. Very gay. He is. I've met Chase. Chase was running around the national convention with no shirt on and a fucking sparkly boa and the same aviator glasses you have on, except like dark frame ones.
Fabulous.
It was very fabulous. Chase is a fabulous gay man for sure. And I think our real falling out, mine and Chase's, was when I was like, I don't think kids should be going to the gay pride parade. And he's like, gay pride parade in Atlanta is not sexual at all. And so I pulled up all these pictures of the gay pride parade in Atlanta with dicks hanging out and people stripping and people walking around on leashes with their asses hanging out. And I was like, really? Not at all. And I could understand someone making that argument with me because I'm from San Francisco. And if you haven't been to the Pride in San Francisco, dude, it's straight up fucking order.
Yeah, look, dude, and I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you on that specific issue. I'm with you. But like, all right, here's not, and I'm not mad at that. Like, you know me. Maybe this is a trolling argument. Could be. But why? Should if a parent takes their kid to an army parade where we're celebrating bombers and bombing,
right.
and this being this kind of like jingoistic military power. I think this is also an arguably harmful endeavor, although I'm actually for a kind of civic national type pride. So I'm not trying to argue against these kinds of things. I actually think it's good that we have these kinds of bonds with one another. But I just think there's all kinds of ways. Like parents do so many things. Like parents will feed their kids tons of junk food and get them addicted to junk food, and your parents will. There's just so many ways you can like fuck up your kid as a parent. Although I also think that kids are generally pretty resilient at the same time, and so it's like, we're singling out this thing that I agree is bad, right? I agree is bad. But like, how bad is it? There's a lot of bad things a parent can do. Is if you take your kid to 2 drag shows, is that worse for your kid than giving them candy for breakfast or the equivalent via sugary cereal for 5 years or their entire life? Right? Many parents will feed their kids sugary cereal for breakfast. Like, which is worse? And I'm really not trying to lead to say that there's a conclusion, but I just think that like we're singling out this thing for cultural reasons. And I'm on the cultural side of thinking that it's bad. Let me be very clear. Like, I think that, but like we're attaching so much to this one thing that's like, on the scale of things, actually not that much overall. I don't know. Yeah.
I get it, man. Hey, we're definitely coming to the end of the live stream. We are going to do a members only stream if you can hang around for 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we get going, Kevin Brady did drop another $5 super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He said back in like 2005 to 2007, the metal hardcore bands in Seattle used to proudly have InfoWars stickers on their vehicles or talk about it on social media. Yes, I know. I was in a metal hardcore band on the West Coast. That's what I did. And we all were like Ron Paul supporters in 2007. Several of us worked on his campaign in 2008. It's really sad how far some of those cultural forces have fallen when it comes to politics and culture in general. Man, it really does suck, dude. I don't know. Jerry, before we go, where can people find you, support you, listen to you, send you money? Because know that's important.
That's the most important thing is money. I don't care if you ever hear another word from me, but give me money. Jeremy, I'd actually rather you follow me on social media than give me like $5. But my campaign website is Jeremy4NH. You can donate on there. You can find all of my campaign videos and other social media channels. I'm very active on Twitter at Jeremy Kaufman. I'm on Odyssey at KAUFFJ. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a Facebook page. Just put in Jeremy Kaufman or Jeremy Kaufman for Senate, and it'll come up.
Sure. And if you guys are watching the show, please make sure you hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Help me grow the. I'm trying to grift that ad revenue into being a stay-at-home dad someday. That's really that's the end goal of all this. As I could spend some more time with my kids. So if you could just hit subscribe and watch some, 1 or 2 ads every once in a while, I'd really appreciate it. Hey, how can people find PorcFest and New Hampshire, the Free State? All that stuff?
Look, this is the real thing. Follow the Free State Project on Twitter. Come out to PorcFest, porcfest.com. It's the end of June next year. If you're a libertarian, it is the best time in the world, I think, that you can have as a libertarian, at least with other libertarians. I don't know. Maybe there's something else. New Hampshire, is the place to be for libertarians. If you are a libertarian, you have to at least visit once in your life. It's like your pilgrimage to Mecca. You don't have to stay. You don't have to live there, but you've got to at least visit because there is a future here that's very optimistic and it's worth experiencing.
Agreed, man. Ryan, before we head out, you got anything, buddy?
Follow me on Twitter at BulldogGamer28. Next on Thursday, I better see some goddamn yep cocks in the
Man just
chat,
wants to
or
see
I
your
will
cock.
find you.
I don't understand why you guys won't just hook him up with a couple of yep cocks in the chat.
There was a yep rooster in the chat today,
That's
but
good. Close. You got
yeah.
real close. I think it's going to become a troll on you, buddy. At this point.
Probably.
I do.
But yeah, these are a bunch of anti-authority people.
Yeah,
So
they're not going to listen to you. And your
yeah,
shit.
what if? I mean, I don't have any authority over them, so they should. I don't know how that dynamic should work.
And,
but
and you
it's
guys do
weird.
know we are going to do a members only stream right after this stream ends with Jeremy Kaufman. At least we usually go 10 to 30, sometimes more than that.
Yeah.
In the members only stream, it just depends on what the guests can do. So if you want to be a part of that, you have to join the YouTube channel as a member. I think it's like $5.99 a month or something. It's really almost nothing. Or you can join the Patreon or Subscribe Star. Both of those are the website.com /breakthecyclejs, and you can get into all the live stream after hours shows, which I think there's like 160 of them or something. So it's really good. My good friend AJ, got anything before we head out, buddy?
No, thanks for letting me back on the show and co-host tonight. And Jeremy, nice to meet you virtually.
Yeah,
Right, great, man.
Yeah,
I'll meet you at Pork Fest next summer.
I'd love to come. Absolutely.
I seriously want to drive my family to Pork Fest this year. That's the goal for us.
Pork Fest is both family friendly and not family friendly. Has very well. I bring my whole family. It's very very family.
As long as you
friendly.
stay away from the backside of the park, you're good to go.
It's like well marked. Like it's like cordoned off areas. So there are some adult areas, but they're very well segregated. And they're very separate. They're kept very separate.
Yeah, there's like a degenerate part of the Pork Fest where this year I think there was a sensual massage. There was a nudist colony but it's like in the backside.
But that's really not what it's about. It's a big campground. You can be
away from there.
Playground, literally a half a mile away.
Yeah.
This is the wrong time to say I'm coming alone. I was gonna come alone before you said any of that. I was
still going to come alone no matter what.
Yeah, I was planning on coming alone anyway, but that's cool. Thanks for
I definitely want to bring the family. It was cool when I had never been. So this past year was my first year, and I rolled up with my buddy David from Massachusetts. He picked me up at the Boston airport, and we drove in. It was about a 2.5 hour drive from Boston. So it's not bad if you want to drive, fly into Boston and then drive. And rent a car. It's really not that bad. But we drove into the campground, and I saw like a gang of like rowdy kids having sword fights with like foam swords. And I was like, man, my kids would fucking love this, dude. And I was there. What, I stayed there 3 nights or something like that, 3 or 4 nights, and it was so much fun. And all I could think the whole time was like, man, my kids would just absolutely love being here. Of course, I miss my. It was one of those things where it's like next time I come, I'm bringing the family. So I think we drove to the national convention last year. We went to Disney World the year before that. I think that our family vacation in June of this year is going to be driving to New Hampshire. It's only a 20-hour drive or something like that from here. It's not bad.
Only.
Yikes.
Dude, we did 21 to Reno. And then we did 5,100 miles on that trip to the national convention. So with 5 kids in the car. So it was pretty wild, dude. Guys, go check out my sponsors. You know all this stuff, but go check out my sponsors. Of course, toplobster.com, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend and partner on Break the Cycle, where you can get this great custom Break the Cycle logo, dark camo hoodie that you see me wearing tonight by using BTC at checkout for a 10% discount, or joining any of the membership platforms to get in the private Discord server where you can get up to 30% off of all of his new gear 2 weeks before it goes to the general public. Good stuff. I promise you it's worth it to support Top Lobster at least. I'd love if you support our show too. You know what I mean? If you're watching this, please hit that subscribe link for free. And if you're listening to us, go and hit the subscribe link on my YouTube channel at Fight the Despots. I need it. Hook us up, man. We need that love. And of course, executive producer of the show, anthemplanning.com, for all your emergency and crisis planning needs. Check them out today. See what they can do for your business, home, or personal life. They're doing a wonderful job that the government has historically sucked at, much cheaper and much more efficiently. They help organizations solve unsolvable problems in the technology and HR arenas. Their team leads by example. Anthem consultants have led their own organizations through demanding periods of change. Now they help clients succeed in the face of technology and personnel changes. Great stuff, man. Seriously, go check them out. I promise you it's worth it. I don't know. You think it's worth it?
I think it's worth it.
I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it if you own a business, you definitely want to check them out. And of course, other executive producer of the show, Colwell Creative Content. They specialize in SEO to help your site rank well on Google or other search engines, website design, optimize website content writing, optimize blog posts, copywriting, social media content management, newsletter writing and design, ghostwriting and editing services, resume and cover letter writing. They work with all kinds of clients, including real estate, addiction treatment, mental health, healthcare, banking and payment processing. Not the Federal Reserve, though. And they've worked with just about every industry, including Libertarian Party candidates like my good friend and mentor, Larry Sharp. They've been in business since 2012, and they've worked with hundreds of clients. Help you get in front of your target audience. Guys, I love you to death. I'm a big fan of you guys coming to hang out with us. Jeremy was amazing. We probably going to have AJ in the studio more often, so that'll be a lot of fun to have the three of us. And that way, if we don't have guests, we can still have a good show between the three of us. I think on Thursday, I'm pretty sure. Let me just, before you guys go, let me give me a second.
Teaser.
Yeah.
Oh,
Teaser.
I know who's coming on. Thursday, Hannah and Lawless will be here. They have a new podcast. Two fantastic Liberty women will be on the show virtually. On that day, and they are starting a new podcast that is about traditional women. So that'll be a lot of fun to have them on, especially since I live in a traditional relationship. We can hash that stuff out, but they're also really funny, so that's going to be a fun show. I'm very excited. But we don't got nothing else going on until then. So peace out, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you Thursday. But until then, don't forget to break the cycle.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. But Chipper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force, unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft. Nothing I mean, you know,